Hi guys, I'm Lauren. Welcome to my channel. It's so good to see you guys. I love seeing you guys every single week. I'm filming this, full disclosure, I'm filming this in November. I don't know if I'm going to end up putting it in December, where I'm planning on doing Vlogmas, and this will be one of the daily videos for that, or if I'm going to end up scooting it into November. So if you're on my Instagram or my TikTok, you may see this plant unboxing before you see it here. I don't know how I'm going to do all that. I'm not 100% sure. I've never taken part in a Vlogmas, but I'm very excited. So anyway, today we are going to be unboxing this very big, very beautiful plant. I've been looking at this plant for about 1.5 years now, and it has been so expensive. I never thought that I would be able to get this plant, let alone get one of this size. So I'm very excited, and hopefully this came well. Yeah, so let's get into it today. Alright, and I don't know if this will be long enough for me to just do this, or if I will include maybe some plant chores. I'm planning on doing some plant chores in a few minutes, so I don't know, but we'll see what this entails. This is just going to be kind of like a mystery video, and hopefully it's good, and I'm not holding the entire thing upside down. I don't know if this is the right way or not. Wow, this thing is so heavy duty, they actually put, maybe I'm opening it upside down. For the record, it did not have a this end up or this side down thingy on the box anywhere. So, yeah. Okay, I hope you can see now. I'm not a fan of the peanuts unless they're biodegradable. I might just go back and include footage of how this looks all perky. Oh my goodness. Very beautiful plant. I want the variegated one as well. I just haven't gotten there yet. It is totally on my list though. I got this whole 8-inch pot. I think it was for about $35 or $40 total on the Home Depot website, believe it or not. So as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my god, I have to have it. Had no idea that it was that fresh on the market. So give me 1 second and I will go ahead and finish unwrapping. Finally got it all undone. It came with this very large pot. It's a plastic pot, and then it came with some decorative, you know, moss up top of it. I don't really care for all of that. I just wanted the 8-inch pot of this plant. Check out the rootage. Look at this. So many nodes. Oh my god. Look at that. Look at that. It's so beautiful. And there's so many different nodes in here. So many aerial roots. Oh my god. I'm very excited for this plant. Very excited. And then I like how they put the pole in it. If you're a person that ships big plants, definitely include the pole because it keeps the entire plant from being crushed. It's very, very important. So I'm very happy with how this turned out. So I'm gonna go ahead. It does not need any water. It is slightly damp, but it's not soaking wet. So just thrilled with this. I'm gonna let it sit overnight, and then we'll come back tomorrow and I will show you how beautiful and perky it is after it gets some humidity. And no, I have no idea where I'm putting it. I just really wanted it. All right. So I will see you tomorrow or in the next couple of days. So this is actually the same philodendron just 2 days later, and it is very unhappy. It's shedding leaves like crazy. It's got a lot of yellow. It's got some spotting marks. I'm not sure what exactly is going on with it. I don't know if it just didn't like shipping or maybe it was just too dry. But we're gonna go ahead and unpot this and figure out what's going on with it. Right, so I've got my little bucket here and I'm just gonna try to pull this out. It does have this moss on top of it, this decorative moss. And the first 2 inches were dry when I stuck my fingers in, but it still felt moist underneath. So I'm not sure exactly what was going on. I don't know, maybe it was just shipping stress, maybe it needed more moisture, maybe it is just cranky from being transplanted and put in this pot at some point. I don't know. There's a lot of different possibilities, but I think what we definitely need to do is get this out of here. Yeah, that's all wet down there, and you can see all the roots are up top here. I think this was probably transplanted before it was given to me, or it was overwatered. So you know how they'll take multiple plugs and shove it in a pot, and it does seem like that's what they did here. None of these are all intertwined and tangled together. This seems like it's just one separate plug. So I think this is probably a transplant shock. It's not incredibly dry. It's not sopping wet either, but it's definitely not incredibly dry. So I don't know. We're just gonna separate this, try to clean it off as much as possible. Hopefully it's not rot, it's just shock. I'm not seeing any rotted roots. This is very, very dense soil mix for fully rooted philodendron though. I always hate, I really hate these thick peat mixes for philodendron. That's my little munchkin in the corner there, popping in and out like a magician. He is really good about helping me though. Alright, so I think what we're going to end up doing is getting all the soil off, or as much as possible. I'm going to let it dry out a little bit, and then maybe I'll put it in some water for a day or two, and then we'll go from there and see how it's looking. So it's been about a day. I am going to chop up this sphagnum moss, and I am going to repot them up in sphagnum moss now that their roots have had a chance to breathe in some fresh air. Roots need oxygen, especially for aeroids. Putting them in very dense peat mixes is only a good idea if you're planning on using it as a rooting medium. After they have matured, it's not generally that great of an idea because the roots will suffocate, they'll get root rot, and they're just not going to be able to do as well as if they were growing in something closer to their natural environment. So I am going to put them in a smaller pot, and I am going to separate them. I am not planning on having all of them together in a big pot like they were. It clearly did not work, and half of that was just soil mix anyway, and especially with that peat mix, it's just calling for root rot. These plants are lucky they didn't get it. I don't know what this spotting is though. I don't know if it's a bacterial or fungal issue, or maybe it had some cold damage and it's just now showing it. But I am going to remove all of those leaves in a minute. I do want to get it kind of settled here in the sphagnum moss first. Also, I did not rinse all of the soil mix off of the roots. I didn't want to damage the plant any further than it already was. So I will do that later when I go and pot it up in an actual mix, but for right now, this is just a recovery procedure. I just looked at the roots and made sure there was no damage on them and no root rot. And now I'm just trying to get the plant back to recovery. So now that I've got it all in here, I'm just trying to figure out what needs to be cut and what doesn't. And I'm just going to go through. These are just kitchen shears. I don't know what I did with my actual pruning ones. They're around here somewhere. But unfortunately, most of these leaves are going to have to go. And I think the other two plants that came with this one are going to have to lose a lot of leaves as well. And it's just something that happens. But in the long term, if we lose these leaves that are going to be damaging the plant with a fungal or bacterial issue, we can end up saving the entire plant. I am not one that likes to chop off leaves just because they're yellowing a little bit for aesthetic reasons. I feel like everything serves a purpose, and as long as leaves are still making energy for the plant, or the energy is being taken from that particular leaf to sustain the plant, it's a necessity. So generally, I don't like to chop off all of these leaves. I have tested it with philodendron and calathea. Those were actually rotted sheaths right there that I showed you. And there's a lot of rotted sheaths in here. I think they had a lot of new growth and it just didn't handle the shipping, or maybe it hit a cold patch or something. Which is a possibility. If you're ordering plants in the winter time, you always want to make sure to have a heat pack with them. And they didn't offer me the option of a heat pack, so I didn't order one. This was from Home Depot, if you recall. But if you have the option, definitely take it. I don't think I'm going to be ordering from Home Depot for the rest of the winter time, just based on this experience. But, you know, things happen. I'm still very excited for this plant. I'm just going to have to wait for more beautiful leaves. Alright, so I removed all except for 2 leaves. They were the only ones left undamaged, and I will keep an eye on them to make sure that they do not become more damaged. And now I'm just gonna gently place sphagnum moss around the root ball here, and that way these roots can still get enough humidity and moisture. This next one, I do want to remove more of the soil. I don't want to have this much soil in here, especially in this smaller pot. I am going to test it out in a terracotta pot versus the plastic pot. Terracotta wicks away moisture, and maybe if this has a little bit more aeration down there, it might be a little happier. Because I have 3 different plants that are all unhappy, and I'm not sure exactly why, because this is a new plant for me, I do want to make sure that I'm giving it as many, you know, opportunities to thrive as possible. So that is the goal here. And I will be putting sphagnum moss in here in just a minute, but I really want to make sure I get all of this soil off and that it's going to fit in this pot acceptably. And I want to make sure that it doesn't dry out too much. I want it to dry out slightly, but I don't want the roots to become completely dry, because if you let the roots become completely dry and then you go ahead and give it water, they will actually be more susceptible to root rot and pests and can have a lot of long-term damage done to them. So I'm just going to have to keep an eye on this as well. And we'll see how this one does. I will keep you guys updated for sure. And with a healthy root system, they'll be able to push out a lot more new leaves, and I have a feeling this is going to be a very prolific grower once it gets reestablished and becomes happier. I am really hoping that this is not some type of like fungal or bacterial issue inside the plant, that this is just shock and unhappiness from all of the transportation. No, looks happy, looks good. I'm just gonna go ahead and remove these extra unhappy leaves, for lack of a better term. They really look like they're having some serious issues. This one spot, particularly on the bigger leaf where it's got the yellow around the brown, that definitely says fungal or bacterial to me. If it was on the outer edges, then I would consider that maybe it was an overwatering or underwatering issue. But because it's so far in the center of the leaf, it definitely looks worse than an under or overwatering issue. So I'm just going to remove all of these. Better safe than sorry. I can always regrow leaves. So I'm just checking for pests just in case. And then all of these yellow stems are not going to be able to grow anything new, and they could potentially spread rot, so I want to remove those as well. If the stems themselves are yellowing, there is definitely a problem. So these scissors are not sharp. Alright, so far so good. It's got a new leaf coming out here, so we'll see how well that goes. It does have a couple more new leaves over here that are not as well formed, so we'll see. And here they all are in their nice new home. I gave them a little bit of slightly different lighting conditions, and we shall see how they do. I'll keep you guys updated. Fingers crossed. And as an extra side note, I did want to mention that this is a grow light that's shining on them. I don't want them to be too close to the grow light because maybe they're having issues acclimating with shipping, and that could be part of the reason why the leaves tank so badly. So I am gonna slowly introduce them to more and more light instead of, you know, shocking them. So that's another thing to kind of consider. Some plants are just really sensitive to light like that. Succulents are one, and some aroids are like that as well. So maybe this is just one of those particular plants that is like that. But just in case, I'm going to try to be safe with them. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate your time. Let me know some of your plant mail stories down below. I know we're all ordering plant mail all the time. Either that or you've heard so many horror stories that you're absolutely terrified of ordering any kind of plant mail at all, which I totally get. But I've ordered over 100 plants online. It's actually closer to about 120, 125 at this point. And most of them have come beautifully. So it's definitely not something to be afraid of. This is not something that always happens with plants. This is just something that can possibly happen. And the reality is that you're still gonna end up with a really amazing plant 95% of the time, provided you vet your sellers. And hopefully this kind of helps you a little bit. All right, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.